Hello and welcome back. For those of you that are new here, I'm Jo and I'm the Millennial Knitter. For those of you who've been around a little while, I'm back. Thank you for coming back. I know I've been away for a little while. I am a knitter, I'm a millennial, and I've just celebrated my 1 year knitting anniversary. So today in the podcast I'm going to be talking a little bit about some finished objects, some works in progress, some acquisitions, and just a bit of general kind of life updates. So get your knitting, get cosy, get a cup of tea, a cup of coffee or something, and join me as we chat. The first thing I wanted to talk about today was just I'm in a new place. One of the reasons I've been away from YouTube for a little while is that I moved house. A couple of things happened as well, but we moved. I'm now in a little town in the south of England. I'm not going to say exactly where. But we've finally settled in. We've only unpacked enough that I actually feel like I can have some of the house in the background in the video and it not be too horrendous. There are still a few boxes knocking around, but it hopefully isn't too bad. One of the very exciting things is my new lovely yarn storage. I might talk a little bit about that later, but I was very pleased with myself when I found these boxes and got most of the stash organised. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a little while. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was some of the finished objects. Because it's been a while since my last podcast, there's quite a few finished objects that I sadly don't have with me, but they are finished and I will try and put some pictures up so you guys can see them. And I've got a reference which I thought would be fun, which is the yarn that I used to make them. So the first finished object that I wanted to talk about, I used this gorgeous Drops Air yarn for, and it was a cardigan that I mentioned in a couple of previous podcasts, which was a birthday gift for my partner's 90-year-old grandma. I have to say I didn't quite make it in time for the birthday, but I was able to gift it to her when we went up to Scotland in the summer, and I think that she was pretty pleased with it. It was the Drops. I used a free Drops pattern to go with the yarn, and it was the Drops City Streets cardigan, which I made a couple of modifications to. So it's it's knitted back and forth I knit it back and forth on circular needles. It was designed to have buttonholes, but I did it open and then put poppers, mostly because I just wasn't sure I was up to the challenge of buttonholes, and I'm not certain that I got the texture right, but it is gorgeous. It was so nice that I'm really tempted to knit myself one. It was quite a simple pattern to follow. It's a free pattern, so definitely go onto the Drops website. They've got tons. You can search by object type, like end product, or you can search by type of yarn. And as far as the yarn goes, I am obsessed. So Drops Air is, it says, a medium thick blown yarn made of baby alpaca and merino wool, and it is just delicious. It's like, I don't know if you can really see it, but there's kind of a tube inside, which I guess is the, I would presume that that's some kind of nylon or something in the middle, and then it's so soft and it's so airy. Obviously Drops Air, but it's really, really light, which I thought, well, a granny might appreciate, something not too kind of bulky, but still quite cosy. It knitted up into this gorgeous fabric, and I'm actually going to use what I've got left over for a work in progress that I'll show you guys later as well. So really strong recommend Drops Air. It knitted up quite quick, because I think I did 5 or 6 millimetre needles. It might have been 5.5 mils, so it did knit up pretty fast. And I'd be really tempted to knit myself something with it again in future. I liked it so much. So yeah, that was the first finished object. I'll pop a picture in. You can have a little look. I have to say, it's probably the most beautiful thing I've knit so far. I put a ton of effort into it because it was for my partner's gran, and I was really pleased with how it came out. And it does, although it was a cardigan, cardigans are not the easiest thing in the world to knit, and I made the mistake of saying to the gran, what is it that she would like me to knit, thinking she'd say, oh, socks or a hat or something, and she unfortunately came back with cardigan, and by that point I'd kind of committed myself. So yeah, so I went for a cardigan. Well, I should have said, actually, this is the what am I wearing bit everybody does. This is one of my knits, one of my fairly early knits. It's a cardigan I've talked about it in a couple of podcasts, but I made it using some We Are Knitters leftovers from Stylish Sweater. I ended up having to buy some more. I used a free paint box yarns pattern and made some adjustments, but I really love it. It's really chunky, it's really cosy. I've just learned intarsia, so I added in the kind of neon stuff that's going on, and yeah, I love it. And it's coming in really useful here where it's absolutely freezing cold and I don't want to put the heating on. So that was the first finished object, quite a big project. Because of moving house and some other things, I haven't had tons of massive projects on the go. But the other finished object I did was a good friend of mine is, well, as we speak now, she has had the baby, but at the time she was pregnant, so I thought, okay, I've never made a baby knit. I've made children's knits, but I haven't made a baby knit. So I found, again, a little free pattern for a hat with little bear ears and knitted that up for her and popped that in the post. And that was with this yarn, which is the, I hope I'm not garbling it too much, but the Adriafil bucaneve, which is 100% merino, dead soft, really, really beautiful. Definitely soft enough for baby and machine washable because it's, what should we call it? Gosh, that's gone out of my head. The type of merino that you can stick in a washing machine. Anyway, you guys will know what it's called. Knitted that up for her. Didn't take very long at all. Got some little bear ears on it. I think that it's very cute. And I popped it in the post to her. So that was my other kind of finished object. Just a simple one. I'd like to do some more baby knits actually. So if anybody's got a baby that needs some knitting, I'm up for it. And my third and probably biggest project apart from the grandma jumper, that cardigan, is this guy. This was a gift. So my partner very kindly bought me a knit kit from We Are Knitters, and he bought the lovely, it's the marshmallow yarn of the kind of chunky 100% wool that they do. Now, I love it. It was a lovely gift. Would I have chosen it myself? No, because I've gotten a bit more advanced as a knitter, so the very chunky stuff is not my preference so much anymore. It is still really nice. It does still have a really nice effect, but I probably wouldn't have picked this one. I did make some adjustments because I'd gotten a bit more confident as a knitter, so I think I added in the lace at the top because I wanted it to be something that was more of a transitional jumper, so I added in a few rows of very simple lace and yarn overs that I'd learned from doing a t-shirt that I made that had the same kind of lace pattern, so I added that in just to add a bit more texture. Carried it onto the sleeves a little bit as well, and I also shortened the sleeves. With really thick wool, I don't actually enjoy a full sleeve. I find them too hot, so I went for a kind of shortened, comes up about 3/4 on me sleeve, and also has this really nice moss stitch at the bottom. I think the We Are Knitters kits are brilliant if you're a beginner. They are really solid. I know there was lots of controversy about their partnership earlier in the year, but the wool is good, the patterns are really straightforward, and you get something lovely at the end. So really like it, really pleased with it. Probably wouldn't have chosen it, and I think it would be my last very chunky wool, but it is lovely to have, so I was pretty pleased with that. I would definitely recommend it. I'll find the name of the pattern as well and pop that in here. I can't remember exactly which pattern this was because I've modified it a little bit, which is a bit of a theme for me actually, modifying some of my patterns. But yeah, I love the yarn colour. I do find that this, I guess it's kind of single ply. I find it a bit splitty. Again, now that my skills have advanced a little bit, I probably wouldn't choose single ply, not so twisted yarn, because it is a bit of a pain when you're knitting. You do poke it. So that's probably something I wouldn't do in future, but I'm really pleased that I finished it. Now, on to works in progress. Here I have got a few, so I'm going to start with the smallest and the least finished so far. I have cast on not very much, just the ribbing of my first beret. So I was talking about the Drops Air leftovers that I've got, and I found a really sweet pattern. Again, it's a free drops pattern. It's called Sidewalk Artist, and it's a free pattern for a beret. So I'm going to knit it up. At the moment I'm intending it as a gift, however there's two things that might happen. One is that I might like it so much I'll keep it. The other thing is that I might knit it slightly bigger than the person's head, in which case I will also keep it because I've got a big massive head. I've tried to make it the right size. I can't say that I've gauge swatched, so it's always, you know, a bit of an adventure to see how it turns out, but it's very soft. The person I'm thinking of to gift it to loves this kind of colour. I like this kind of colour as well. And it'll just be a nice kind of simple, hopefully a simple knit to be doing on the train and that kind of thing as I'm travelling about. So yeah, pleased with this so far, although there's only a tiny little bit cast on, but that's where I'm at with that one. My most exciting work in progress is, if anybody follows me over on Instagram, you may have seen it, but one of the things that happened this year was that we sadly lost my grandma, and she was a really prolific knitter in her younger days, knitter and crochet, and what was the other one she did? She did kind of lace as well, so she was really talented. And I've actually acquired her knitting patterns, so she had a big book of knitting patterns, and I'll show you the one that I'm making before I show you the progress on it. So I was very pleased with myself. So I have finally organised all of her patterns into this big folder, because some of them I think must have been her mother's patterns because they go back so far. There's some gorgeous stuff in here, like her raffia, and I did a YouTube looking at this, so do have a look at that other video. I'll link it down below of some of the ones that I looked at, but the one that really caught my eye as my very first knit from Gran's pattern book was this guy, which is this absolutely wild lace, ruffle, neon magnificence. So I have been beavering away on my own version of it, and here he is. So at the moment I have completed most of the body. Hard to see when it's laced because it doesn't hang very well, but completed the body, and I am more or less completed a sleeve. The sleeves, again, I'm probably going to do kind of elbow length sleeves just because that's my preference. I have to say I have made more modifications to this. I am knitting it on larger needles than the pattern goes for, and a couple of reasons for that. One is just for the look, like I want it to be really open textured, so I wear like a vest or something out under it, but also I'm aware that vintage pattern sizing is probably smaller than contemporary sizing, and I was a bit worried about that, so I'm making the biggest size in the vintage pattern, and I'm knitting it on larger needles in the hope that it will be big enough, and I think it will be. The lace pattern is really simple. It's just a four row repeat, yarn overs and knitting. I've also changed the pattern to knit in the round. It's originally written flat, but knitting in the round was much simpler for me, so I've been doing that. And I have been using what might be my new favourite yarn, which is from Onion Knits, and it is a blend of, which is wild, it's a blend of nettle and wool, and it's so soft and so silky, and I'm really hoping, obviously it's lace so it's not going to be that warm, but I'm hoping that that blend will mean it's not too hot. Like I'm a person who runs hot anyway, so I don't want something super duper hot, and I think that this will be the thing. And it is so beautiful. It's soft, it's drapey, it kind of squishes down to nothing, it even smells really nice. I am super pleased with this, and I'm hoping that I will shortly be able to stick his arms on and he'll be done. I've just got one more sleeve to do, the decreases and then the finishing. One thing that I have noticed is I should really have counted rows, because it's lace. Trying to match things up, like trying to get the two shoulders the same length or trying to get the two sleeves the same length, is really tricky with lace because it just stretches differently depending on how you hold it. So if I'm measuring and I've accidentally pulled it a bit, it's a nightmare to try and get the second side to line up, which has led me to two quite wonky shoulders that I'm hoping I can fix. I mean, I'll wear it anyway. I'm not a perfectionist knitter, so I will wear it anyway, but just something to be aware of if you're knitting lace. I would really recommend counting your rows. I'm sure the more organised knitters amongst us do that just as a matter of course. I don't. I tend to just knit and then see what happens. Other adjustments I've made for the sleeves, I've added in a knit section at the top rather than it being kind of lace and going into the decreases, and partly that was just to make my life a little bit easier. I felt like it would be easier to attach and seam if it had a bit of a kind of sturdier attaching point. That might turn out to be a mistake, but we will see. But yeah, I'm loving it. I have really enjoyed making this. I'm hopefully going to really enjoy wearing it. It's the kind of autumnal pumpkin spice vibes. I did cast it on about 3 weeks ago, so I've made pretty quick progress on it, I think, because it's this open work lace. It does seem to go pretty fast. And because the pattern's so simple, I don't need to refer to a chart or anything. I've just memorised it. It's really straightforward. So yeah, I'd really recommend it. My biggest decision is going to be, once it's finished, like I've got the sleeves on, do I add the ruffle? I love the ruffle. It's what attracted me to it initially, but part of me is questioning whether adding a ruffle to already a bright orange lace jumper is going to make it not that wearable. And I'm thinking, do I not add the ruffle? Do I add the ruffle like somehow in a detachable way? What do you guys think? What would you do? I do really love it. I'm just trying to be slightly practical in my decision making. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd be really interested to know. And then probably next time we chat, I'll have had a look through and seen what other patterns I might make. Yeah, it's been really enjoyable looking through her patterns so far, and I think she'd be pleased that someone was using them. And then my last current work in progress. What have I done with it? There it is. Now, Mum, don't watch this. I had promised Mum that I would, well, I had offered rather than promised, that I would make her a jumper for Christmas, and she fortunately picked something really simple, and I have like absolutely outdone myself with the speed of this one. So I can't, what day is it today? Today's Tuesday. I cast this on Friday, and that's where we're at. So we are just about ready to decrease the armholes, which, I don't know, maybe I'm getting overexcited, but that feels really blooming quick to me. It's a really simple V-neck sweater, free pattern on Ravelry. You'll see there's a bit of a theme there. And I just wanted something that was basically the classic mindless stockinette, let the pattern, like the pattern of the yarn, do the talking, and create something that I hope Mum will want to wear, you know, every day, all the time. Just something really simple. Mum's tastes are quite classic. Like you'll see me and my neon and my leopard print. That is not Mum's vibe. She is very much a beige, a brown, a grey. So I've pushed the boat out slightly by going for, where is it? This, well, you can see it on here, hopefully. It's a kind of brown, cream and grey mild yarn. It's by, let me see if I can find some. It's another Adriafil. Ah, yeah, there we go. So this was a very bougie purchase. It is Lana Naturale Inca. I got it from a yarn shop in, I think it was up in Lancashire. And it is 50% alpaca and 50% wool, so it is glorious. It's very soft. It's definitely next to skin soft for me, and Mum's less fussy about that than me. It's an eco yarn, which I presume means good things. I'm knitting it up on 4.5s at the moment. Is it 4? No, 5s. 5mm needles, so it's going pretty fast again. And yeah, it has, I think, for a relatively beginner knitter, I think I said I've only been knitting since October of last year, I have tended to pick up quite complicated projects like, you know, intarsia and lace and all sorts of things. And this, I think, is my first just plain jumper. My very first jumper that I did as a beginner knitter actually had 6 different pattern textures in it. Why I thought that was a good idea, I don't know, but I did make it, and it's got moss stitch and Irish moss stitch and all this kind of stuff over it. So making something that's plain stockinette is like, oh wow, this is how fast you can actually knit if it's something very simple. I don't know if this is normal for knitters, I think it's kind of the opposite of what most people do. I quite like a bottom up, and I realised I like a bottom up sweater as opposed to a top down sweater because you can just start. And as somebody who's currently going through the process of getting assessed for ADHD, just starting and not having to do a whole load of faffing and thinking at the beginning is way more motivating for me. I have been put off a bit by, like, there's gorgeous constructions of top-down jumpers, and I will get to them, and raglans and collars and all sorts of things, but the beginning bit always seems so complicated that I'd have to be in a really specific mood to do it and to like do the increases and do all the things. Whereas with this, it's like, okay, cast on the number and then just knit for ages and then worry about the complicated bit. So you do the complicated bit kind of at the end once you've made a lot of progress. And for me, that somehow is much more motivating, but I know it runs the risk of a too short jumper, because of course, if you're knitting the other way around, you can just check when you're happy with the length and then stop. When you're doing it this way, that's much harder. So yeah. How do you guys feel? Do you like a top down or a bottom up? I'm definitely bottom up camp at the moment. But yes, I'm very pleased with this. I'm hoping today is, what are we, something like the 8th of November. So I'm pretty confident that this will be finished by Christmas. Yeah, so pretty chuffed with this guy. I've got a couple of other thoughts about Christmas things. I have some yarn acquisitions as well that I might show you guys now and think about what I might make with them for Christmas. But Mum's project is my big Christmas gifting one. I'm not thinking of any other big gifts. I might do some small hand warmers, hats, scarves, that kind of thing for friends and friends' children. So if you've got any good examples, let me know. The other one I was thinking about is I've seen some really nice tote bag designs, like knitted tote bags. I thought that could be really cute because eventually my friends are going to get bored of getting scarves for Christmas. But let's have a look at acquisitions. Okay, so my first acquisitions are actually not yarn, but they are knitting. I got these two gorgeous books from Kim Hargreaves. I got them back in the summer, but I think after my last podcast. And one of the reasons I got them was I really, really want to make for myself a collared sweatshirt, collared jumper. And there was a pattern in one of these that looked gorgeous, and then it kind of got me into the other one as well. So I treated myself to both. I haven't actually started either one of these yet because the patterns look great, but they look quite complicated. So I basically haven't kind of got the courage up. But yeah, this I thought was absolutely gorgeous. So it's collared, slightly oversized with a kind of check texture to it, which I think would be really lovely. It's called the Nuray, N-U-R-A-Y. And I think there was another one. I mean, that is stunning. I don't know how to cable, so that would be a real adventure for me, but isn't that gorgeous? And there's a couple of others in here that I just think, yeah, I would love wearing them. So that's kind of acquisition one. Then other acquisitions, I took a trip up to Scotland and visited this fantastic place called Curry Creative, which is a really gorgeous, I'll try and put some pictures or some footage in here. It's a kind of community-based knitting space inside a shopping centre that has a kind of knitting studio, a textiles place, so you can do weaving, and it's also supporting the local community. And they have the most fantastic display of drops, which is usually really hard to actually find drops like in real life, in physical life. So I treated myself to a sweater's quantity of their baby merino in this colour combination, which makes me very happy. And I'm thinking that I will do probably a cardigan with kind of cuffs in a different colour. So I went for the orangey colour as my like main colour, and then I'm thinking to do the cuffs and maybe the button band or something in this contrasting teal. I think that's quite a full-on colour combination, but there's something about it that makes me really happy and I think would be super nice. So if you've seen any nice cardigans, I'm thinking something quite simple, maybe slightly long, like not a full like coatigan or anything, but just like a slightly longer cardigan in this I think would be absolutely delicious. It says it's a 3mm needle size, so it's probably going to be a long project, but I was super chuffed with that. I also picked up from them some Drops Bell, so it's just a really simple, I think it's cotton, 53% cotton, 33% viscose, 14% linen, but it's a really unusual like grey plum, I would say. It's slightly mild, and I thought for another summer t-shirt, I know it's not really the time of year for it, but summer t-shirt could be really, really nice. So some Drops Bell, and then in some Scotland adventures, I also picked up another two skeins. One is I'm obsessed with. I mean, look at that. So gorgeous. Superwash merino, that's the word I was looking for earlier. Fairly thick. I think it's, doesn't say, it doesn't actually say needle size, but I would guess 3.5, 4mm. I thought as an accent with, I've got that grey, I've got some of the grey merino leftovers. Some kind of combination of those would be amazing. So really excited about that. Only one skein because I think it was pretty pricey. This is, yeah, Black Elephant Grand Finale DK. Oh, it's a DK weight. Really fluoro neon. Really gorgeous. Super obsessed with that. I think I might have a bit of a neon problem. I also picked up again in Scotland. I'll try and list the yarn stores I went to. Over on my Instagram, I've done some little stories on them, so you'll see them on there. Some amazing pink neon Sock Share DK by Coop Knits. Another super fine merino. I'm not going to use it on socks. I feel like that would be a waste. It's too beautiful for socks. I will probably use it as an accent colour. Again, if I do something with grey, I've also got some really lovely white, off-white merino that this I think might make a nice accent too. I keep trying to do neutrals and then, of course, the neons just find me. So pick that one up as well. Really excited about that. And then I've done a bad, guys. So another beautiful store in Scotland. I picked up this. Looks quite good like that, right? Oh dear. This is a cashmere blend. I'll have to find the yarn band for it, but it is probably the most beautiful yarn I've ever felt. It's a cashmere blend, and I tried to hank it up myself and I ruined it, and it's just been hanging out on the side there because I don't really know what to do about it. I think I need to put in a Christmas order for a hank winder, but yeah, I need to sort this because this was going to become a very beautiful scarf. I thought it would make, it's a one skein, so I don't think it'll do much more than that, but it was so lovely and it's so soft that I thought it would make a really beautiful scarf or shawl, either for me or if I was feeling generous for a gift. So I should really get my act together and turn this into something useful, but I haven't been able to so far. So that was, I think, my last acquisition. Yeah, I think that was my last acquisition. Oh no, these guys. So this was on a recent trip. Again, knitting related rather than actually knitting, but how fun are these? I'm thinking they are pom-poms. So I'm thinking if I knit a couple of little Christmas hats, jazz them up with these guys. I always get really excited when I'm travelling. I travel for work quite a lot, and when I'm travelling outside of London, there are always little local yarn stores that have much more affordable selections than what you get in London. So these little pom-pom guys were £2.50 each. I'm certain if this was in London, there would have been a £5, £6, £7, something like that. But they are very, very cute, and I thought for a gift knit that might make something really special. So yeah, we shall see. They might end up popped on top of something. It's just a little extra finale. And yeah, in terms of knitting plans, I'd taken a bit of a hiatus from knitting for lots of reasons. I'm getting back into it now. I'm starting to get a bit of cramp in my hand because I've been knitting like a whirlwind the last few days. But I want to get the Christmas jumper for Mum finished, the orange lace sky finished for me, and then I will start thinking about some more Christmas gifts. I'm thinking probably, because there's not like loads of time between now and Christmas, probably hats. Last year I did do some hats, but I'm not sure I did a terribly brilliant job on them, so it'd be nice to do some slightly better hats this year. And then I'm also really feeling quite like a selfish knitter at the moment. Like I want to make some stuff for myself. I've got a jumper dress I'd like to make. I'd like to make a knitted pencil skirt. I made one as a beginner last year, really liked it. But there's so many things that I want to knit, and it's trying to balance my hands, the things I'm knitting for other people, and I would really like to start making a dent in my stash. So I have, in not a very large amount of time, made a fairly large acquisition of yarn. I reckon I've got, 7 jumpers worth in there. So I should really make a start on them. I've got some lovely, I'd like to do something with this actually. This I picked up, I think I showed it in a previous episode, but this is a really beautiful wool and bamboo blend that I picked up in Rotterdam. I think that would be a really nice cardigan as well. One of my struggles is I feel like I'm more of a cardigan person than a jumper person because I get kind of hot and cold. But cardigans are such a pain to make. They are much harder to make than a jumper, because a jumper you can just knit round and round. So it's trying to debate whether I can force myself to do a cardigan in this, but I feel like that's something I would wear all the time, just like a nice little shrug cardigan thing in that would be really lovely. So possibly when The orange one is off my needle, so I might go for that. I also do have Mutual Dreams, so I've got some grey and some beige Adriafil, plain kind of merino, but I feel like I should make some basics. People always talk about knitting basics, and I was thinking maybe more of like almost a t-shirt kind of thing. This orange couch, Kate from This Orange Couch, who I'm obsessed with, is a knitter over in America, and she and I think have fairly similar body types, and she knits loads of really beautiful, she's a vegan knitter, she knits loads of beautiful kind of slightly cropped t-shirt style knits with different thicknesses, but basically t-shirt style, so kind of short sleeves, cropped. And I think some of the yarn that I've got would make something really lovely from one of those, so I might try and copy one of her, you know, one of the knits that she's done and try something with that. And yeah, I think that's about it from me. As I said, we've moved recently, so things have been a bit chaotic, but things are a bit more settled now. I've also got some different things going on at work at the moment. I'm away from my main job on a secondment, which is really exciting, so I've got a bit more time for knitting at the moment as well, and I'll be travelling around quite a lot, which should be really nice. So yeah, please subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'd love to chat to you in the comments. I'm over on Instagram as well as the.millennialknitter. Do check me out over there, have a look at some of my previous videos as well, and hopefully I will see you again soon. Thanks so much for spending time with me. Bye guys.